Hi everyone, my name is Mislav Magic and welcome to SimpleTalk, a podcast where we try to unpack some of the biggest challenges facing finance and accounting teams in the insurance world and discuss with industry leaders their experiences of achieving smarter, more efficient operations. Today I'm super excited to have Karen Hoflin from BrokerLink, a longtime partner, great friend to SimplePin. Welcome, Karen. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thanks, Mislav. Thanks for having me today.
Absolute pleasure. So to our audience, if you can just tell a little bit about yourself, maybe your role, background, and a little bit about BrokerLink, that would be fantastic.
Sure. Thank you very much. So my name is Karen Hoflin. I'm the Director of Broker Performance Operations and Learning here at BrokerLink. I've been in the industry for too long to mention and have a pretty solid background in insurance. I started as a direct writer and worked my way through underwriting into a large brokerage, was a owner of a brokerage, and now, of course, with BrokerLink, which is one of the largest brokers across Canada, and with an eye on acquisition and still continuing to grow. So it's exciting time to be in the insurance industry, and really happy to be here today.
Great. I would just say solid is a little bit of an understatement. But thank you for that. So jumping right into it, as we said, we kind of try to unpack challenges, opportunities within the space, and being part of BrokerLink, obviously the largest agency in Canada. I'm just wondering, what are some of the top priorities that BrokerLink and you yourself are focused on?
I think at BrokerLink, we're definitely a centric on our customer. We want what we deliver, and how we deliver it is always through the eyes of our customer. And I think we're moving from a space of good intentions to intentional design. So we're shifting toward intentionally designing our experience so it works for both our customers and our brokers. And that just simply means simplifying workflows, reducing those friction points, and then removing unnecessary handoffs. And in doing that, automation being an important part of that, obviously. But we look at that experience as the sum of all interactions today. So it's not a single point of how did that interaction with the customer look, although we measure that through our advocacy and our NPS. But we want to make sure that it's the sum of all those interactions. So whether it's service, claims, payments would be another one, renewals, just how easy is it to do business with us? It's not owned by a team. It's something we share across all the people, processes, and technology that we have.
There's a lot there to unpack. One of the curious questions I always look at, because that is a very forward-thinking approach, if you will. What's driving that change? As in, what if you sort of don't do anything? Impact of change can be great, but it can also be scary for folks. So I'm just wondering what is sort of driving that underlying need to change, improve, get better at BrokerLink.
It's a great question. One we've asked ourselves quite often. At the heart of that, I think the customer is the answer. They are driving the need for change. We live in a world where everything is at our fingertips, whether it's on our phone or a laptop. Everything, we can order our food, we can buy products, we can do our banking. Anything we need in life is really you can self-serve, do it at your leisure, 24/7, 65. If insurance is going to be, and as a broker, if we're going to compete and be measured against that from a customer perspective, we need to evolve. And we need to look at how do we deliver what we do and in that same vein, be comparable to how you deliver your product and your service. So we have to evolve. We have to look at technology, and we have to look at what our customer wants and find a way to deliver on that.
That's really interesting because you kind of connected three separate dots for me anyways. That customer experience makes you competitive, but at the same time, the automation delivers efficiency. So in many ways, it's a trifecta. That's amazing. The customer journey that you described, obviously, it's a quite broad one, right? It's not just, as you mentioned, it's not just payments, it's not just claims, it's not just self-service. So when you look at that big board that you probably have, how do you prioritize? Because one of the things I think human nature as well is when it's such a big project, if you will, or there's so much opportunity, there's always that inertia of where do we even start, because you can't do it all. Natural reaction is not to do anything.
Yeah.
So how do you and your team kind of pick the starting points and work through prioritizing the projects?
Yeah, it's a great question. And you're right, it's easy to get attracted to the sparkly shiny, and there's a lot of sparkly and shiny out there these days. For us, we align our decisions to our strategic objectives. So the more hits we have on a project that hit those strategic objectives, the more likely it is for us to deploy that. We look at the biggest impact. Is it, and always again at the customer, is this having a significant impact on that customer? So we align to our strategic objectives, and then we align to that customer experience. And from there, then we make a decision on whether it's something we want to do today, tomorrow, or put it on our roadmap for the future. There's a lot of them on the roadmap, and sometimes it's a tough decision depending on where you sit. We all have a different perspective on what we want to deploy. So sometimes it's a tough decision, but we really come back to those strategic objectives. And then our structure. We operate in a very project management based structure. So being able to resource those things and deliver them. We look for those quick wins. We look for those opportunities to fail fast at something. So if we do make a choice, we're very willing and open and able to fail fast and make a decision and say that's not for us, or it's not for us today, and then move on to the next strategy. But so I think it's about the willingness to try something and fail. It's the ability to be agile and make that decision, and then ultimately always looking at how does it impact the customer at the end of the day.
And aligning it obviously to the corporate objectives as well. Mentioned.
Yep, that's primary. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, because you mentioned in your background that you were a broker, you owned a brokerage. I do know that you worked for a mid-sized broker prior to a BrokerLink, and now you work at an enterprise level broker as well.
Yeah.
What were those decision-making processes different, sort of from a smaller brokerage to a mid-sized brokerage to an enterprise brokerage? And with the focus more like a mid-size and a smaller brokerage are probably facing bigger challenges because they don't have the resources, teams, experience. I think a lot of the times not having the experience, usually, at least for me, puts that project on the back burner because I'm afraid to fail. So I'm just kind of curious how your approach evolved from sort of small to mid-size to very large.
It was an evolution. When you're in your own world, small or medium, you can make decisions in the moment. So you're built and you build the muscle to be able to respond and make decisions in a mid-sized way. And to your point, when you want to tackle some of these bigger options that you have in automation, they don't come without a cost to them, either monetarily or skill and knowledge and ability. And so the people piece as well. And not all brokerages have that skill inherent in their workforce. So now you've got the cost of automation, but you also have the cost of upskilling your staff or finding that expert that can come in and be that guide for you. So there are limitations there outside of just being able to make the decision. It's about spending the money, spending the time, the FTE. And that probably is the biggest hindrance at a smaller medium brokerage, is that I think the desire is likely there and you want to take advantage of that. But can you afford it in the short term and the long term, even when you know that the benefits are there for you. And that's probably in large part, Misla, why we see brokerages making the decision to sell. And because we're right in that pivotal moment where you're either going to have to, both feed in, invest, and do what you need to do, but that's going to take a lot of time, resource, and money to do that. Versus bigger brokerage, we still have the same challenges. They're just on a bigger scale where money, time, and resources, it's scalable. So yes, we're bigger, and yes, we've got the ability, but that just means we have more of them on our to-do list, and you can only have so many people working on a project. You can only have so many projects in the pipeline. We still have a bottom line that we are responsible for, and we have shareholders that expect results. So from a desire perspective and a want to do something, I think it's just scaled differently, but the challenges are inherently the same.
The same. And one of the things that you mentioned, I think I picked it up right, is selecting that right partner, that right resource. I think from BrokerLink's perspective, because obviously from our experience as well, it's a very efficient. You guys have a great process vetting vendors and so on. Can you share more for the audience, like if they're a smaller or mid-sized broker? Because I think there's a lot of trepidation. Am I selecting the right partner? Am I investing money and more importantly, time? Months and months at a time for something that may or may not work out. So what are some of the operational and then maybe even gut or experience when you're selecting a vendor to kind of say, yeah, this is high degree of confidence that this is the best vendor for us or the right vendor for us? It may not be the best vendor, but it's the right vendor for us.
I would say the first place to start is make sure you're very clear on what your requirements are. What are you expecting? What is the scope that you're wanting to fulfill with whatever vendor you're looking at? So have a very clear vision of what it is you're wanting to do. Try to be, I wouldn't say try, but clear vision. Don't pick just one vendor. So look at what your options are. Look at what the reputation is of those vendors. Do your homework. Talk to other people who use that piece of automation. How do they use it? Are they similar to you? Ask a lot of questions. And then really at the end of the day, make that decision because it's going to deliver the best experience that you're looking for. It works within your infrastructure and your ecosystem, and so it's easy to integrate. Obviously, that's always a component. There's lots of automation out there, but how does it integrate with the rest of your business tools and software? Because it's just to keep bolting on or bringing in new software, not having it communicate with each other in an effective way is likely not the most efficient option for you.
I like that. So it always starts with an overarching business vision or strategy, and then selecting vendors on all of those bases. Plus, is this just another bolt-on and another bolt-on, or does this fit my overarching strategy? And speaking of overarching strategy, you touched up on it a number of times because it does seem like the biggest drivers for BrokerLink. But I was just wondering, aside from obviously client, and we can talk more about that, but what is success of a project? Like, what are the expected outcomes or KPIs when it comes to a success? Because to your point, I like that fail fast as well. But failing fast means we are measuring against a particular KPI or division. So just kind of wondering, I know it's different projects, but if we're talking about automation and automating that whole journey and so on, what are some of the KPIs that you and team at BrokerLink always look for?
So I would say the first one for us is if it's front facing where it's for our brokers, then we are looking at adoption as our first metric. So are we and have we adopted whatever the tool is? And we look for a 90 to 95% adoption rate. That's when we know that it's fully integrated into their workflows and they're utilizing it. Because in order to get the benefits of anything, whether it be a new workflow or a piece of automation, it doesn't matter. If it's not adopted by the end user, then you won't be reaping the benefits that you expect to see, whether they're from an NPS perspective or a budgetary perspective on the bottom line. So adoption for us is one of the key metrics. We look for broker feedback, obviously. So we're looking for that feedback from them. Is it working? Is it not working? We measure our NPS through that journey. If it's customer facing, we want to see retention. Is it going to increase retention for us? Does it impact that experience on that side? So retention, adoption, and adherence are important. Then our service levels, of course. So on our phone system, we measure the time, the average handle time, the average speed of answer. So is it impacting that to the positive, where we're more efficient on the phone, we're able to deliver on a better experience for our customers through the efficiency on the phone. So those would be probably the primary measurements for us from a success perspective. But we typically will go into any project with very clear success factors. Most of the time on a project, we start it as an MVP and we will transition it into a proof of concept. So we have very specific success factors that we build into the MVP version, and then that migrates to the proof of concept, where we take a bit of a broader approach to our audience in the POC. And then if we do decide to deploy it, then typically we have success factors that are a little bit longer. So we know that when you're delivering it to 1,600 or 2,000 employees who are utilizing it, it's going to take a little more time. So we have a longer vision on those success factors.
That's great. So again, 3 key points that I took away. For most part, it starts with the client experience. Not all these projects might be client facing. In some cases, the 2,000 brokers are your client, and you track the adoption. Then you're looking at the efficiency, productivity, ability to scale, because you're constantly growing. And all of those things add up to staying competitive, be it that you're trying to grow, maximize cash flow, optimize working capital, or optimize resources, because obviously staffing more is expensive. So just a very nice business loop that is all tied to customers, employees, as well as investors, which is very nice. But something that you mentioned, I'm always curious, is especially at BrokerLink levels, with the number of employees that you guys are dealing, when that is an internal customer, how do you deal with change management? Because that usually can be, you mentioned adoption, right? And sometimes it's technology, sometimes, a lot of the times, it's just change management, I guess, fear of something new.
We have a lot of focus on change management, particularly in the last few years. We've definitely taken a much more centric focus on change management as we grow. As you know, we're integrating a lot of new brokerages and brokers into our ecosystem as well. So a lot of change in this brokerage on a regular basis. But we know we can't ignore the need for keeping folks updated. So clear communication for us is a strategy. It's an ongoing one. I think it's one that you fine tune every day. You don't go in being perfect at it. You go in building the building blocks of that and setting expectations. Very consistent feedback loops. So always looking for that feedback from the end user, whomever it might be. And then I think really making sure that we focus on the what and the why, particularly when you speak to things like automation. It's very easy for people to equate automation to replacing humans. And we want to be very careful that, and we want to be really careful that tools are there to enhance the experience, not to replace the human in the loop. So we're very aware of that, and we make a very concentrated effort to let our folks know that automation is really there to enhance their day-to-day and shift them from being more process driven to more consultative with our customers, so that, in the back end, there's systems that are handling that day-to-day process. That leaves you time to really be consultative with your broker. So change management for us is at the top of our projects. We have change management professionals who guide us through that process and alert us to potential risks that we may not see. It's easy to roll out a piece of automation and think, oh, everybody's going to like this, but there's always that component that we sometimes miss in the impact of the change. It can be as simple as that button was on my screen over here yesterday and now it isn't. That's a change that can be significant for people. So it's making sure we're aware of that and clearly communicating and being transparent.
That's great. And then just if we take a step back, I know we've talked about a lot of different things, but when it comes to anything, selecting a project, running a project, driving that success, is there anything from your experience that just pops into your mind quickly, like top 3 things to pay close attention to when running a project? Like it could be, hey, when I see this, I know that's a problem, so I want to get ahead of it. Or how do you even manage if there is a pitfall? How do you manage that challenge? Just kind of 3 key takeaways that you embed in any project, and those would be your warning signs or success signs.
Mm-hmm. Again, going back to having a clear vision of why this project, you chose the project, and making sure your stakeholders are aware of the vision and they know the why. Then having a very clear scope of work. So what is the scope? What is it we're working towards? What are the requirements? Making sure those are clearly documented. Everybody understands them. Being realistic about your timeline. It can be really easy to plop dates in a calendar and say we want to do things by these days, but those dates influence the speed in which you move. And sometimes we get very focused on a date and we're not willing to move that date. So being really, really realistic about your dates, your implementation plan, having a very clear plan that everybody is aware of and understands. Again, that transparency. And then working through that plan and staying true to that plan. Again, it's very easy when as you work through a project, you're always going to find, I call them hidey spots of problems that you didn't know existed, particularly in automation. It peels back the layers of your workflows and exposes gaps and areas that you may not have even known were a problem or weren't operating quite right, especially in a brokerage of this size. When you have this many people working through workflows, oftentimes people will, I always call them, they're like water. They find the path the path you never thought of. And when you deploy different changes to workflows or automation, you oftentimes expose those. So it's very easy to want to go and fix all of these things in the moment and rectify those, but they take away from you being true to your project. So again, having a very clear and robust backlog list. So document those things, put them on the backlog so you can prioritize them at another time. Don't lose sight of them, but stay true to that project. So have a really good project structure, very clearly defined roles and responsibilities of who's going to manage what, and don't be afraid to bring in people from the business to help you, even if they might feel like, do they really know what we're doing? Sometimes those front end folks are the best resource for you. They have the best vision of what's going on. So expand your audience to make sure you've got all the right voices at the table. Be clear on your project. Be completely visible and open to seeing all of those hidey spots that come out, but stay true to that timeline and that deliverable for you so that you can add to that backlog, your backlog to those as you deploy it, but stay true to that. I think is really important. And then have a very solid steering committee that can help you remove roadblocks if you need to, or make those more leadership, higher level decisions if you need them to be made. That group of people can help you meet your timelines.
Great. Very, very sound advice. If I were to summarize that as one piece of advice, what I walked away is staying focused. We all get busy and distracted, and there's always going to be challenges, and
That's right.
just stay focused on the project. Karen, I can't thank you enough for spending the time today with us. It's always an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. It was very nice to be here.